I'm Tyler with Bikerumor.com, and this is my one-ride review of the 2017 Norco Revolver. The Revolver's been in their lineup for a couple years now, but for 2017 they added models with SRAM Eagle X01 and XX1. The Revolver is their 100mm full suspension XC race bike. It's got 100mm in the front, 100mm in the back, and the tuning on the suspension is very stiff. It is meant to be an all-out, super efficient race bike. Norco's full suspension bikes use the FSR suspension design. Normally that suspension design can be a very active platform, but here they've done some magical tuning to make sure that it stays very stiff under pedaling. We set the rear shock to about 22% sag, and even after running through some black diamond sections of the trails at Charlotte Whitewater Center, the phonometer only reads about 75% travel usage. Up front, I used a little bit more of the travel, but to tell you how efficient this bike is, Norco thought enough of it to leave a lockout off of the rear and only put a lockout on the fork. You really don't need one for the suspension at the back. For an XL29er, the front end of this bike is very low. That's thanks to a short top tube and a reverse drive stem. While this bike is really set up for a one-bias drivetrain, it does have ports for a front derailleur and a dropper seat post. It's even ready for Di2 with wire ports where they need to be. I used to ride the trails here at the Whitewater Center all the time, and they're still very familiar to me. So fortunately, getting on this bike, I was able to really let it go on some of the downhills and see what it could do at speed. And on the climbs, I'm definitely in better shape than I was about 10-12 years ago when I rode here. So screaming up the climbs was no problem. There were a couple of rooty, rocky sections that it just kind of skittered over, and that's mainly, I think, because of the very stiff suspension. It didn't really soak into everything. You still feel it, and it feels like it's kind of skimming over the top, but it gets you through it very quickly, which is what you want out of a race bike. One thing I like about this, because it is a race bike, is that when you stand up and the front end's so low, it automatically puts you into that very aggressive riding stance. So as soon as you stand up to hammer or you stand up to wiggle through stuff, your weight's over the front of the bike and you're really able to carve through it. So overall, as a race bike, this thing was darn near magical, and I loved riding it today.